Meeting at 1700 hours. It's 5 o'clock. I'd like to welcome my fellow councillors, CEO and council officers, including those in the gallery tonight, and also those people watching proceedings online this evening, the 21st of May, 2025. Given that all councillors are in chambers, we will skip item 2. And have we got any apologies?
No apologies.
No apologies. Excellent. Item 4, statement of commitment. I'll read the statement of commitment and ask each councillor in turn to confirm their commitment, please. As councillors of Mansfield Shire, we are committed to ensuring our behaviour meets the standards set by the Model Councillor Code of Conduct. We will, at all times, faithfully represent and uphold the trust placed in us by the community. And Councillor Team.
I confirm my commitment.
Thank you. Councillor Treasure.
I confirm my commitment.
Councillor Clark.
I confirm my commitment, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Brenny.
I confirm my commitment.
Thank you. Item 5, acknowledgement of country, Deputy Mayor.
Our meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Taungurung people. We wish to acknowledge them as traditional custodians and pay our respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to all members of our community.
Thank you. Item 6, disclosure of conflicts of interest. I'll ask each councillor in turn whether they have a conflict of interest on any agenda item tonight. Councillor Tehan.
I have no conflicts of interest in relation to tonight's agenda.
Thank you. Councillor Clark. Oh, sorry. Councillor Treasure.
No conflict of interest in tonight's agenda.
Councillor Clark.
No conflicts for me in tonight's agenda, Mr. Mayor.
And Councillor Brenny.
No conflicts of interest for tonight's agenda.
Thank you. And I have no conflicts on any item tonight either.
And through you, Mr. Mayor, I'll just declare a conflict of interest on item 18.1, the CEO Employment Matters Committee report.
Right, okay, noted, thank you. Confirmation of minutes from the last meeting.
Yep.
Councillor Clark.
I'll move that the minutes of the Mansfield Shire Council meeting held on the 15th of April 2025 be confirmed as an accurate record.
Thank you. Thank you. All those in favour? That item is carried. Thank you. Representations. We do have representations tonight. On item 3.2.1, we have Mr. Alex Lyons. On item 13.2.2, we will have Mr. James Corse and Ms. Kim Lynch. And on item 13.2.3, Mr. Tony Tehan, Mr. David Ritchie and Ms. Kim Lynch online, and I believe there will be one other tonight, Mrs. Tehan, for item.
It's the item to do with the illuminated signage.
Okay, yep, that'll be 13.2.2. Mrs. Tehan, thank you. Notices of motion, nil. Mayor's report, I'll take that as read, councillors.
Read.
Councillor Clark.
Yes. I'll move the council receive the mayor's report for the period 15th of April 2025 to the 16th of May 2025.
Thank you. And the seconder, Councillor Treasure. All those in favour?
I'd like to speak to the motion if I
Oh.
can, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Of course you can.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say a special thank you to our mayor and deputy mayor for representing us yesterday in the city on this tax that we're all very aware of. I would have loved to make it down, but I just wanted to say thank you for representing Mansfield Shire in that.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Councillor Clark. Can I put it to a vote? Anyone want to speak against that motion? Okay, we should put it to a vote. All those in favour? Thank you. That motion is carried. Item 11 are the reports from council appointed representatives. The Australia Day Committee is not met. The Goulburn Murray Climate Alliance, Councillor Brennan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, we have met since our last meeting. We met last Thursday online. As the main point of discussion was about pros and cons of incorporating the alliance, and so that will go to the executive for discussion, be taken up in the future. And the other key part was the adjustment and signing of the memorandum of understanding. No major changes, just mainly around Murrindindi auspicing the alliance for another term. And another thing, I was nominated to join the executive committee, which was moved and passed there. So I'll be doing that as well as a bit of a crossover as chair of the committee. And for the next meeting, we'll have someone from AgVig and a researcher from Monash Uni to talk about the drought and drought declaration and what we can be doing in the region to assist farmers and other landholders, because Towong is looking at declaring a drought and seeing what functions they could do and help with landholders there. So I will report anything back to us from their outcomes, as well as the AgVig people and what they say about it, because no doubt become ever increasing issue for us all the place. And we'll meet again on the 27th of August after the VGA conference. That is all.
Just a question with that, Councillor Brennan. When is that meeting? Your next scheduled meeting where you got
August 27th.
August 27th.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah,
hopefully we're still not in drought then, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm hoping that they'll get Towong to pass on anything in the next few weeks to then share with you all.
Yeah, great.
See how they go with their council. We follow. That is all to report. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Brennan, and I will say congratulations on being appointed from all of us here on the committee, exec committee. Well done. For expedience, I'll just say that no other committee has met except for the MAV has met. The CEO and I were at the MAV meeting last Friday. The major topic of discussion, most of it was pretty vanilla, but the major, and you all have the agenda, but the major topic of discussion down there was the fire services levy increase and how that will affect each small shire, and indeed the larger shires down there. So we put up a consolidated motion with Benalla, and Mansfield seconded that motion. The motion was passed by about 97%. And the motion, I can read it out. The MAV expresses the local government sector's disappointment with the state government's approach to levy collection and implementation of the Emergency Services and Volunteers Fund, the ESVF, and opposes local government being a collector on behalf of state government, and calls on the Victorian government that if local government is to administer the funding, then adequate administration funding for local government to manage the cost of administering the SBF, Victorian government to undertake the community engagement directly with communities, 3, transferring levy collection to the state, 4, ensuring an equitable funding model. 5, improve transparency and communication. There are undertones to this, but it will come out in some pricing it. 6, conduct an ongoing economic impact assessment, and 7, ensure equitable fund distributions. So, in fact, in line of that got passed. They took about an hour and a half of negotiation. A lot of shires, including ours, wanted a stronger message. But in the end, that was passed. That was about the third motion that was put up, hence Benalla and Mansfield being the proposer and seconder. So I'm glad to inform you all that we have probably 78 councils out of 79 that agree with this, that we should not be collecting the new tax. That's the big thing.
Yeah.
So that's the outcome from that, maybe, councillors.
Just on the equitable version of the levy, or one of the points was, is that because it's affecting some people, you know, to a greater level than others? And so the more, I guess my point is, the more urbanised shires were still
Yeah,
okay with the fact that it was inequitable and the farmers would be wearing the brunt of it.
that's correct,
Okay.
councillor.
Well, that's good news.
The equitable was continue efforts to reduce the levy burden on all Victorian residents, ensuring the model remains equitable for all communities,
Yeah.
especially rural areas and primary producers, reflecting the adjustments made to the primary production land PPL rate.
Thank you. Thanks, Mr.
Passed unanimously. Oh, nearly, up from one council. So, yeah, so not unanimously. Nearly got there.
Yeah.
Councillors, that's the reports from council. Councillor Bruni?
I'll move the council note the verbal reports by councillors in relation to their representation on internal and external committees.
Thank you. Seconder, pursue. Deputy Mayor,
Yep,
was it?
yep.
Does anyone want to speak to or against the motion? No. In that case, I'll put the motion to the vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Chief Officer Reports 13.1. Of course, the CEO is the responsible officer for this. So, councillors, have you got any questions on the CEO's report? Councillor
Yeah, I have a
Hugh?
couple. Madam CEO, just in relation to the planning applications lodged on page 11 of your report, there's an application for stone extraction on 131 Terry Road, Mansfield. Given that it's a topical thing and that we'll be discussing stone extraction, and I thought it might be interesting to find out who has put that application in.
Look, I do not have
Without
that
notice.
to hand, but we might, we could probably ask Senior Coordinator of Planning when she comes online.
Yep.
For very shortly. Is she there already? Actually, if you're able to let her in, yeah, we might ask her that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and on page 21.
Did you get that?
Yeah, we could hear that.
Resembling. Oh, welcome.
Thank you.
Councillor Teen has a question to the CEO about stone extraction that possibly you could answer for her, please.
I hope so. Sorry, I didn't hear the whole question. If you could
Name of
repeat
it.
it.
James will repeat it.
Yeah, I was just there's an application for a stone extraction at 131 Terry Road. Terry, I've gone off the page now. What do we call it? No,
Mansfield.
Barwide or Mansfield?
yeah. Just wondering who the applicant was, because we have an application in tonight, and it would be just interesting to.
The applicant is on behalf of the new landowners, and I apologise, I don't know their name, but it is being done by Malkin Consulting, who are effectively a specialist company who deal with applications under the Code of Practice for small quarries. But they are doing it on behalf of new landowners for that site.
Okay, thanks. Page 20, Oh, yeah, just I noted in the CEO's report, CEO, that the amount of kilometres graded this month is lower than usual, with vehicle breakdowns and staff leave occurring through the month. Is this something that we should be concerned about? That if we don't have staff or staff go on leave, that we can't grade the roads?
It's through you, Mr. Mayor, it's probably more a matter of the breakdowns than the staff leave. As I understand it, one of the rollers has been out of action, and without a roller, it's not really safe because you can't compact after you grade it. So I think that's probably more of a factor than the leave part of it, but yeah.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah. How long till
But I will
we can
say,
get the roller back going?
I
The
think-
roads are starting to.
I think they're pretty close, if not already, because and the reason I know that is it was out on my road.
Oh, it's still
So I
sitting
think-
there. Yeah.
I think it's back
okay.
there.
Yeah.
But having said that, yeah, they have, I think when we say staff leave, it's not necessarily planned leave. It can also be if someone is ill. So that's not necessarily something you can plan for. And if it takes, sometimes it's just bad timing and you get a few members out of the team at once, but that's usually a short-term impact. So the team are just reporting what's happened through that month, and it would be a combination of factors, but they are well aware that that this is one of our highest priorities, is to keep the roads in good shape. And I know from speaking with them that they're quite focused on that, on trying to catch up.
Good.
Yeah.
All right. And just one last question. Just I haven't seen this before in the CEO's report, but the amount of views that we're getting for the meetings, are they views that are live, or are they views that are then subsequently people go back and watch them after?
I think through the mayor, I think they're live, but if I could just ask for a shake of the head or a nod of the head from our IT area.
I'm not sure. It could be both. So
Could be both.
Yeah,
Okay, we can check on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take it on notice.
Take on notice.
Yep.
Yeah.
I just noticed something on that. Sorry, James, you should.
Yeah, I'm done. Yep. Yep.
I
Got
just
a
noticed that-
question, councillor,
Yes, sorry.
Treasurer?
Tricia, through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, thank you.
Just on the posts with the interactions, the views and the reach. What's the reach number, Mick?
Oh,
No, that's all right.
through you, Mr. Mayor.
I just
think
thought I
it's-
thought they would be the same.
I'm not a social media
that's all right.
expert, but I
Yeah.
think it is basically when one person then shares it and then
Ah,
others then
okay.
see it from their sharing.
Okay.
Don't ask me how we measure that.
No,
'cause
that's
I
okay.
have no
I
idea,
was
but I
just-
think it's something that comes from
yeah.
our platforms. Yeah, they give us a report on that because they can tell.
Thank you.
Any other questions, councillors?
Through you, Mr. Mayor. Just an update on the Botanic Park stage and if there's any progress for that and the company, timelines.
Very happy to say there has been. We've just received the updated drawings for it, so they'll be, there was an illness, I think, from the designer, so we've been waiting for them for quite a while, but we have just got them. And the mayor saw them actually earlier this week, and I'll be circulating them to all councillors so that you can see it in the communique, or I think they're actually planning on doing a briefing paper actually, so that, yeah, we'll be basically getting some quotes for it now.
And the other one is mainly a comment that those red gum tables are really great initiative on page 22. Really good use of that timber. It'd be good to keep up those initiatives. That's all, thanks.
And I have just one
Councillor
comment, no questions, Madam CEO, just a comment that I'm excited for the youth advisory group to come to a council briefing and give us some input on the council plan. I'm excited to have that group up and going. I know how long that's been trying to get that going.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Okay, councillors. Any other questions? Councillor?
I'll just move that
Oh, right.
the council receive and note the Chief Executive Officer's report for the period of 1st of April 2025 to 30th of April 2025.
Roger that. Councillor Treasurer? Seconder? Does anyone want to read that motion? Against the motion? I'll put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Motion. carried. Okay, getting on to 13.2.1 DP 002/22 Development Plan 240 Malcolm Street. And on this, we have a deputation from Mr. Alex Lyons, property owner. Alex, come up. Mr. Lyons, sorry.
Alex is fine.
Yeah, I know. I've got to call you Mr. Lyons.
No, it's good evening all. Thank you.
Good evening. Now, you will get 3 minutes,
Yeah, no worries.
and then we will have time to ask you questions after that.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so are you ready, Chelsea? Well, go ahead, Mr. Lyons. Thank you.
So yeah, Alex Lyons, the property owner of 240 Malcolm Street. I'm also a multiple property ratepayer within the Shire. At the end of the day, I guess the way we operate is really a mum and dad developer. So not a corporation coming into town. It's very much something that we do on a small scale. We purchased the property back in August in 21, so quite a while. We're coming up almost 4 years. And we've been really actively pursuing and pushing this project, and it has been excruciatingly long in time frame and extremely costly. We're obviously at a point now where we've really gone through the rigmarole of the planning requirements, but the big one for us was around cultural heritage. Really important part of that pie. But what we found is that 2019 there was obviously a change in the assessment for the Tudorong. There was the Stoneleigh estate. They had their cultural heritage done back in 2019. There was a change at that point. Stoneleig's 3 times the size, 3 times the amount of yield. They had 10 sites that they had to excavate and look through. We've got 9 lots, so a third of the size, 9 lots, and we had 38 sites that were required. The cost associated with that is roughly, it's about $10,000 a day. What they sort through is about 2 to 3 dig sites through a day. So essentially, it costs us about $170,000 purely in cultural heritage. But look, it's obviously a really important part, so it's a part of what we're going to do. But when we looked at the last 4 years and just everything, every part, it's really, I guess, been a real struggle. But I guess where we've been sort of led to is the current formation and the lot design has really been formed through, one, the cultural heritage, where we've found artefacts, where we've needed to go or not go. The native vegetation, ultimately the site, we're not touching a single tree. So again, the alignment of boundaries and building envelopes and all those sorts of things. Owens Creek, that's obviously set in play. And one of the key elements for us is having one lot that picks up that, if you like, ownership and management of that creek line. It's not multiple properties that are sitting on that creek line. So that was a really important part for us. Looking at the project going forward, we will have a set of design guidelines to ensure there's consistency across the whole project. The fencing for us is really important. We're going to do all new fencing, post and rail along Malcolm Street. There's going to be the pedestrian access along Malcolm Street and obviously coming into the site itself. We've got the design guidelines being one part of it, the built form, but we're also going to look at landscaping. That's obviously the two put together, really important. What does that look like long term? And the other one, which is really important, was that we are building out the project. So it's not about sort of having the nice glossy brochure, this is what we're doing. It's actually bringing people to the site, touch, feel, see, be really emotionally involved in what it's all about. And that's essentially it. But the big one for us was around the location of everything. I guess by seeing it on a piece of paper, you sort of can quickly look at it and say, have you thought about this? How come it's done this way? Those sorts of things. So we have gone through 15 iterations of different ways it can and can't be done, from the starting point of where the house sits right at the moment on Malcolm Street. Originally, we were going to actually have all of the sort of the court coming in off Malcolm Street, right where that house sits, and bring it up along the creek line. That was deemed as a no-no, so we're going to bring that back onto the other side of the site. Owens Creek, obviously highly sensitive, stayed well clear with any of our building envelopes through that location. If you know the site well, it's obviously really steep up the very top. That was deemed a no-go zone, and there's also a low-rise dimple as a no-go zone. So where we've landed today has been thrashed out by all. So I'll leave it with you. Thank you.
Well
Any
done.
questions? Yeah.
Yep. Councillors, do you have any questions for Mr. Lyons? I'll start with the bottom. Work up.
Thank
If
you.
you've got any.
No specific questions from me.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
Just one question from me. Thank you, Mr. Lyons.
Yeah.
From reading the report, it mentioned that there would be some removal of vegetation, but you've just said that you won't be touching any vegetation. Can you clarify that point?
On the site itself?
Yes.
My understanding, we're putting tree protection zones across all vegetation. So
Yeah.
when I say vegetation, obviously the established trees that are there. There may be some remnant vegetation that's being replaced and changed, maybe along Malcolm Street and different things. But as far as the importance of obviously keeping the beautiful site, you know, we're also wanting to retain those trees. So they're all going to have a tree protection zone attached to them.
Right.
So,
And you've said that, you know, you've thought a lot about the parcel, so there's not going to be any fence lines that go through, because I know there's a certain buffer zone, correct me if I'm wrong, between the fence line and vegetation when you're building new fences. So
Yep.
you've thought about obviously.
exactly,
where those
yeah.
fence lines
Yep.
go.
So if you have a look at any of the sort of the detail on it, there's actually a few unusual sort of kinks in design, particularly around the ones that sort of sit up the
Yep.
back of the property itself.
Mhm.
So it's around obviously capturing those trees and obviously keeping and retaining those
Yeah.
so that's our number one goal, is obviously not removing any of the trees, established trees.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
So I was just, so I noticed that the creek's basically all in one block. You've dog legged around it, so you've basically put all that sensitive area down the back of
Yeah.
the block. Yeah.
We
and there's
sort of
no
felt that
fences or anything going through it.
We felt that it'd be important that it's sort of one block as opposed to maybe multiple
Yeah,
owners.
yeah.
It could be a real patchwork outcome where you've got maybe 2-3 owners backing onto the creek. So we felt that being a really important part, that we
Yeah.
have sort of like one, you know, owner essentially
Mm.
taking up that creek line.
Thank you,
No worries. Thanks, guys.
Mr. Lyons. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Councillors, have you got any question for the responsible officer? Who's Claire Wilkinson, but Ms. Embling is taking the questions. Oh no, Ms. Wilkinson is. Oh, welcome. I didn't see you sneak into the room, Ms. Wilkinson. Sorry. Any questions for Ms. Wilkinson? Yes, Councillor Team.
Yeah, Ms. Wilkinson, on the development plan, obviously the Goulburn Valley Water are providing water to these blocks, to these allotments. They aren't providing reticulated sewerage, but council have also insisted that we have a suitably sized rainwater storage. I couldn't find the details of how much storage each lot will have to have. Can you be able to?
In terms of, is
Light
that
me on that.
domestic water storage?
Yeah, you're a little bit, you might speak up a bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
thanks, yeah.
Sorry, I'll go closer. The domestic water storage will be influenced by the calculation of the dwelling size, so the roof area. Usually that is an engineering sort of stipulation, and that will be influenced by the size of the allotment. So they're generous rural living size allotments, which will allow for you know, a large dispersal. So planning would anticipate that the size of the tanks could be, in this instance, quite large, because it's not constrained by land area. So in a general residential area, the size might be 5,000 litres, whereas these properties could allow for an area that's larger. So typically we would include a standard engineering condition that relates to the proportion of roof to collection, and would make a recommendation for a suitably large, maybe 25,000, I think is what I've seen before for rural living allotment.
Yeah, and will part of that be having CFA fittings to those rainwater tanks?
Yeah, it's my understanding that that would also be a standard requirement, and also a slow dispersal valve, which allows for it to be absorbed, but then also have a slow release, which again is what we commonly see across the residential developments as a requirement of our engineering department, and a standard condition on most permits for subdivision.
You.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms Wilkinson, can you confirm whether council received any objections to this development plan when it was put on public notice?
So to confirm, this development plan was advertised for a period of the minimum a period of 2 weeks. It was on advertising for 3 weeks. The planning team also had this particular application advertised in the Mansfield Courier for the same duration of time, or it ran once, and there were notification signs, public notice signs placed on the fence line of the development. And while the planning officers met with parties, there were no formal submissions or objections received on this application.
Right, thank you, Ms Wilkinson.
No, all right then.
Well, just one more, just with the pathway to the subdivision. And it says, in any future planning permit issued for subdivision would include conditions requiring the developer to complete the path. So that means that the paths will be complete once the blocks are subdivided.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, thank you for that question, Mr. Tien. The effective frontage of the entirety of the application area, so the effective frontage on Malcolm Street, would essentially be the area where a path would run. As part of this, we've also been in discussion with Mr. Lyons and the applicant about making sure that the internal turnaround streets for the court wall also will have a specified area for footpath.
Oh, okay. And so will that path on Malcolm Street connect up to our current pathway, or be just out the front of it at this stage?
The effective frontage will fall short of our existing footpath strategy and network and the constructed path. However, with the effective frontage of the site, it would be anticipated that a connection could be established to facilitate an actual through connection in due course. However, this developer and this subdivision it would not create that would not build that link essentially.
And that path would be, is a pretty similar standard to the one that is down Malcolm Street now?
I would anticipate that the engineering department would require a continuity in terms of the existing path network and its design standard. So I think a gravel chert is kind of what's sort of characteristic in that area. It's my understanding.
Yep.
It's great.
Thank you.
No other questions, councillors? Good.
No.
Councillor Clark.
I'd like to move a motion, Mr. Mayor.
The one.
I'd like to move that council approves the submitted development plan DP 002-24 for rural living zoned land on lot 1 on LP 80798 lot 1 on TP 244731, lot 75 on PP 3056, addressed as 240 Malcolm Street and part of lot 2 TP 245258, addressed as 220 Malcolm Street.
Thank you, councillor Clark. Councillor
I'd like to second that, please.
Treasurer. Okay. Councillors, anyone want to speak for the motion? Councillor Brennan.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Just to say that we're not opposed to development in this council, but development that's done better and that aims to preserve and protect significant trees. And I think that the applicant's done a wonderful job of that. Driven past this site nearly every day for my entire life. And it's nice to know that this cultural heritage will be protected and cared for in someone's backyard rather than side of the paddock. So that was all. Thanks.
Anyone else want to speak to the motion?
Oh yeah, I reckon it's a good development. Sorry that's taken you so long to do it. It's probably been a real battle by the look of it. Well, I can see that. But I think it looks really good, and it could actually, I think, you know, if it comes up as is in the development plan, it could be a really good sort of future reference for other people seeking to develop something like that, because in the past we've had some pretty average developments when you look at it, you know, similar size and scope to this sort of thing. So I think it's good, and I'm glad that the Golden Valley Water have been able to provide water for it, although it's really important as that we do have good rainwater backup supplies for for fires and the like. Yeah, so it's good.
No. Thank you. Oh, I've got something to say too. When I looked over this plan a few days ago, obviously, I've just written here enlightened developer. And that's what I've always wanted to see. Trees protected, the country look and feel, everything looking the same. And as Councillor Tean said, the water for drought and emergency. So well done. And with that, does anyone want to speak against the motion? And I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. Okay, thanks, Mr. Lyons. You're welcome to stay, but
I'll leave it to
exactly. Item 13.2.2 is P01725 planning permit application 215 Dead Horse Lane, Mansfield. The responsible officer is Ms. Embling. On this item, I have we will have Mr. James Horse, the applicant from Gork Outdoor, Ms. Kim Lynch, and Mrs. Tean to talk. So first we will have Mr. Horse come in online, I believe. Gork Outdoor.
Hello, have I got you?
We can hear, yes, we can see you and hear you. And can you see us, Mr. Course?
Yep, I reckon I've got you.
Well done. Okay, my name's Steve Ravey. I'm Mayor, chairing the meeting. Welcome today. You will have 3 minutes to do a deputation, and that will be timed by our officer over here, Chelsea. So when you're ready, go for it.
Beautiful, thank you. I'll hopefully meet the deadline.
Okay.
So a bit about us as a business to start off with. We're only 7 years old, and during that time, we've developed 250 signs, which is a mix of sort of static and digital. The one in front of you today is obviously a more traditional static billboard, where we have over 100 exactly the same sort of signage structures across regional Victoria in different towns, some larger, some smaller than Mansfield. In terms of us as a business over that time frame, we now have 30 in our team, which are largely sort of aligned with our network of billboards. So up in your region, we have an office in Wangaratta, and then remote workforce sort of in surrounding towns as well, like Shepparton and Heathcote. In terms of our business, I think what's unique about us compared to others in our space is our approval sort of rating at council level is significantly higher. The whole reason behind that is the size billboard that you're seeing today is the smallest industry standard size. So we try and do something that's proportionate to regional. And we also have a large proportion of all our advertising content being local business, which other councils view as having that tie into being a net community benefit, which I'll talk to later. In terms of this specific site, understanding that it's pretty unique and it's currently a bit empty with obviously sort of a less beautiful industrial building in its background. I think like what's unique about that is you obviously have the development across the road with the subdivision work that's before you guys as well, where that industrial sort of industrialization of that section of road is going to change dramatically over time. And I think when you look at this, we view this, you know, this sign as a element in that gateway or entrance is a real positive thing. At the end of the day, when you look at that and what it can deliver, we're proposing that we put a number of conditions on it, which would draw it to a level which would have a benefit on that sort of entrance as you drive in, which I'll talk to in a sec. In terms of like at the principle of it, I think we're always big on where you're on the fence with development, you should approve it. So when I looked at the officer's report and everything, with everything I've offered, I think this finds a middle ground of dealing with those concerns and shifting it to be a positive development for the town. It then, you know, introduced an additional revenue stream to a local landlord, which when you even look at the news this week, any sort of money to offset additional rates and other costs to own property, I think it's very, we should be trying to prioritize development. In terms of the offers that I've put as a alternate motion, we're very open to removing the lights to it, so it's only visible during daylight hours, which seem to be a number of touch points from both objections and also internal departments at council. Include a permit condition around having content which is only from Mansfield LGA, so you're always going to have a local business on that sign. You put landscaping around the sign as well, so you introduce a number of trees and then shrubs in front of it, so trees around it and behind it, and then shrubs in front of it to integrate it with that surrounding context of trees to help with that, arrival into town and have this sign as an element in that streetscape as apart from other industrial properties along that stretch of road.
Are you nearly finished?
Yeah.
Over 3 minutes.
Yep. And the other offer there was just around the permanent council signage, so having something on the bottom of the sign which was pointing people to tourists and event information as well.
Okay, good. Thanks, Mr. Course. Just stay online. There might be questions for you, please.
Yeah.
Councillors, have you got any questions for Mr. Course? No? Okay.
Not right now.
Right. Thanks, Mr. Course, for coming in. There's no questions from my fellow councillors to you at the moment. The next deputation will be from Ms. Lynch on behalf of the Mansfield Matters Group, and she's coming in online, I believe. Deputation will be from Ms. Lynch on behalf of the Mansfield Matters Group, and she's coming in online, I believe.
I hope so. Am I here?
Yes.
You are, but we can't see you, Ms. Lynch.
I'm trying. Just a moment. Oh, it says cannot start video anyway. So is it okay? Can I just talk? I think you know what I look like. Oh, here we go. Start my video.
Is that okay, Madam CEO? It's a technical difficulty. Yes, we can.
Asking me to.
You won't get any more than 3 minutes, so I'll start you now.
That's fine.
Go.
Okay. So, Mr. Mayor, thank you and good evening. As I said, speaking on behalf of Mansfield Matters Group, at last month's council meeting, MMG advocated and strongly supported Amendment C56 to protect the controls over 3 township approaches from undesirable development, which detracts from the Mansfield Township and the high country experience. Tonight, we find ourselves back here again, advocating for one of these 3 approaches being the Benalla Road. This sign is extremely large, with sightlines into the town, and indeed closer to the town than the racecourse. So in terms of looking at C56 and what that will deliver, it is now seriously entertained at the Planning Minister's office. And as a result of that, there's a development overlay that has rather strict requirements for signage. And interestingly, we note that the applicant in its application specifically says that they have no strategic intent to put signage within DDO areas. So maybe we should be asking them to withdraw on that basis alone. However, second, let's talk to the proposed sign itself. The actual sign is a bit questionable in terms of size because the application said 23 square metres and then a subsequent letter said 18, I think. So how big is this sign? We say under clause 15.01-511, Mansfield Township approaches, the policy is to retain and enhance the landscape qualities of each approach and to minimise the impact of visual clutter from signs through controls to control the landscape key view lines to the surrounding alpine foothills. That's a need to be retained and enhanced according to council policy. So this proposed mega signage is the antithesis of this policy. We also draw on the applicant's claim that their billboards will promote advertising, and indeed the applicant tonight said that they would have a condition of local content. I'm not sure that it is possible for local content to be mandated by a Shire condition. And he also states that these signage would encourage people to stop and spend money in the town. Well, people have already got to Mansfield. It's a destination town. It's not a pass-through town. And finally, returning to C56 in relation to signage, it states that other things in a sign must be so that it is not dominant and does not compromise the existing landscape. Well, we say, from the very nature of where it is, billboards are aimed at attracting attention, and because that's what advertising is. It's aimed to take away from the landscape and it's aimed to draw your attention to the sign. So without doubt, this signage will detract from the visual pleasure offered by our aged grandfather gums that line the Benalla Township, and the billboard seeks to be dominant in the streetscape. That's its job. So it's not for our township approach. And Mr Mayor and councillors, MMG strongly opposes this billboard proposal in front of you, and we ask you to vote no and refuse this proposal. There is nothing positive in it for Mansfield, and I think some of the issues about a single landholder getting a bit more money because it's got a sign on its property is a bit thin. So, Mr Mayor, we hope you will vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Lynch. And just for the record, I gave you 3 minutes and 39 seconds, which is the same as Mr Corse got. So
thank you.
Thank you for that. Councillors, have you got any questions for Ms Lynch tonight? No questions? Ms Lynch, there's no questions from councillors. If you'd like to stay online, please, and we'll get to the next person that would like to give a deputation to this item, which is Mrs Tehan. Welcome, Mrs Tehan.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My objection was made with the belief that this application should not have even got to this stage because there are chronic biosecurity issues with the site. So this evening I will focus on a context that I believe shows why this application should be refused. Firstly, we are dealing with a neglected site that is in a highly complex area. 2 government authorities have declared restrictions because of infestation of what have been described as one of Australia's worst weeds, the Chilean needlegrass. Restrictions are imposed on traffic entering and leaving this site. There are large trucks accessing the site and others travelling through this area every day, adding to the risk of spreading this noxious weed. The site faces the Midland Highway intersecting with the heavy-duty truck bypass, which has been declared a black spot. It is also in the Mansfield Township approach zone. In close proximity, we have the racecourse adjacent and registered pasture seed paddocks nearby. It has become a busy and dangerous intersection for these reasons. I travel it most days. Because of the relatively narrow highway, all B double trucks that must move to the centre of the road when entering or leaving this intersection. I've been behind them, and it becomes an issue for all drivers at that intersection. The last thing drivers need here is to be distracted by an advertising sign. The purpose of this application is to erect an oversized illuminated billboard that will distract drivers with advertising material. The use of billboards of this nature and the size is contrary to the C56 amendment that the Shire has spent years working on. Mansfield is a destination. It is not an interstate major. It's not an interstate. It's not on an interstate major highway. And billboards like this are contrary to our planning scheme in this area. I have serious concerns for the biosecurity risk that is now a current threat of contamination to the significant pasture seed industry in our district. There are seed paddocks less than a kilometre away. Having been part of a seed growing enterprise for many years, I know how serious this risk is because of the high standards of seed purity required for export. Construction on this site will mean using heavy-duty equipment, including a crane. Maintenance and upgrades increase this threat dramatically. Who will be doing this monitoring? The council has no choice, I feel, but to refuse this application on several grounds. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Team. If just right there, councillors, have you got any questions for Mrs. Team tonight? Councillor Bruni.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
You, Mr. Mayor. In your experience, what do you think if someone was to offer to remove all of the Chilean needlegrass that is there, sort of bioremediate that site rather than any action? Would you know what sort of cost or if that's possible to do?
I've read quite a bit about it, and most of the literature said that it's nearly impossible to remove satisfactorily, and that's why it's one of the worst. It's quite invasive and doesn't need much for it to move around. So, but I would like to think that before council ever considered it, that it would be cleared, because I don't think it's eligible to be considered.
Thank you. No further questions.
Yeah. Thank you, Mrs. Team. Councillors, that's the declaration. It's not on that motion. Sorry, on that agenda item 13.2.2. But have you got any questions for Ms. Embling, who's the responsible officer? No, okay. Councillor Team.
I'm happy to pass a motion on this one, which is the motion on page 29, as written on page 29 and 30 on tonight's agenda, which is that starts off the council resolves to issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant a permit.
Okay, and that's on page 29 and 30. Roger that. So work out between the two of you which one wants to second that motion. Councillor Bruni, the second the motion. Council Councillor T, you've moved the motion. Do you want to speak to it?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor. I think that this is the right decision to refuse this this motion on several grounds, most of which has been covered by the objectors tonight. But I think that certainly the Chilean needlegrass is it could have devastating effects on if it was likely to spread. We know that it's got a hard seed which lasts for 10, 15, maybe 20 years in the ground. So it simply can't be just eradicated quickly. It would have to be a long program to actually get rid of it. And it would be, if it got out into our agricultural areas, particularly seed growing industry would be vastly affected by it. I know that where it is prevalent in the Western District, sheep growers down there, it just destroys their wool clip. Yeah, it has devastating effects. I don't think it's just not worth the risk. But also on the grounds of, as Ms. Lynch said, C56, you know, we've worked really hard to implement or to get these planning scheme amendments implemented, and this would just fly in the face of it. You know, our township approaches is what it's all about, and this is right on the township. Great illuminated sign as you drive into town, distracting people. Yeah, no, I don't think it's. I think the planners made the right decision here. So,
thank you, Councillor T. Councillor Bruni, you spoke. Sorry, you second the motion. You want to speak to it?
Just to reiterate some of those points raised by Councillor Tan, in particular about the approaches to townships overlay, and in there that it does allow for signage, but more so signs that are adjacent to the shop or the business that they're trying to do, rather than a dedicated advertising sign. And I appreciate that Gawker running a business, trying to look for opportunities. This one doesn't quite fit for here. So.
Okay. Does anyone else want to speak to the motion?
Yes, please, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Clark.
I'd just like to say thank you to the people who have spoken, and to the objectors who took the time to make submissions. And thank you, Mr. Course, for speaking tonight. The issue I find with this is that as elected representatives, it's our responsibility to act as well best practiced in good governance as we can. And whilst Mr. Course has mentioned a couple of adjustments that could be made on the basis of the objections and the council objections, the council officer objections, those items have not been put in as part of the application. And in terms of good governance as a council, we need to make decisions based on the right practice that's been taken, and the application that has been made and the application made in front of us with these details is not something that I can support. If Mr. Course is committed to making changes in adjustment with the character that goes with Mansfield, then he's welcome to put in a new permit application to be considered at a later date. But as this permit application as it stands, it's not something that aligns with the vision we have for Mansfield Shire.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. Any other councillors want to speak, or does anyone want to speak against the motion? If you want to reply, but no one's spoken against the motion. All right, put the motion to a vote. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Thanks to everyone that came in and spoke tonight. Moving on to item 13.2.3, which is P214/22 planning permit application 138 Burns Road, Burrelite. The responsible officer is Miss Nicole Embling. And we do have some deputations on this one too, councillors, which will be Mr. Tony Tian, Mr. David Ritchie, and Ms. Kim Lynch online. So in that order, I'd welcome Mr. Teahan to come up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, getting your dose of Teahans tonight.
I am. Off you go, Mr.
Yeah,
Teahan.
okay. Well, I very strongly disagree with the application. The site is in the Alpine Approach Study Zone. It's 4 hectares, I believe. It's very hard to work out, but all those who frequent the MCG will know that it's 4 hectares is 10 acres. So that's 2 MCGs, which will be a real blot on the landscape. In my experience with Mudstone Country, we had a quarry about 3 kilometres from us, and you could hear this thumping as the rock was loaded into the truck. It was really loud, a bit like a scare gun going off, and created a lot of dust as well. The Shire opposed a quarry in Buttercup Road, and I think that set a precedent, and I think that precedent should be continued. It's at 50 millimetres of rain. I suspect that there'd be a lot of erosion, and which would be a real problem because it's in the deltite catchment area, Mansfield's water supply. My experience of farming on this mudstone country, it's very good country. Our best pastures grew on that country because the mudstone actually mineralises the soil, and there is a certain amount of moisture in those mudstone rocks. So for that reason, I don't think, that land should be degraded. This mudstone seam of rock stretches from Barjarg right through to Jamison, and if this passed, you'd have every mudstone rock property in the district applying for a quarry. So anyway, I'm very much opposed to it, and I expect that Kim Lynch, who will follow David and myself, will point out other aspects of why it should be refused. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Teahan. Has anyone got any questions for Mr. Teahan? Thanks, Mr. Teahan. And you're the only one that's come in under 3 minutes tonight. So well done there. Thank you. Mr. David Ritchie is next. Welcome, Mr. Ritchie.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and councillors. Thanks for the opportunity. Just in relation to the revised application, this really isn't much different from the original. My second point is really that extractive quarries are not part of the Shire's economic strategy, whilst farming and tourism are key pillars. There's a strong precedent to refuse this, which is Harris versus the Mansfield Shire on the Buttercup Road quarry, and that was decided at VCAT in favour of the Shire for very good reason. I'm not sure I believe the applicants are being a bit disingenuous. They talk about how it's really going to improve farming profitability. I'm not sure how this will take place, given that only 4 hectares of land are supposedly being applied for. This equates to around 2 cows annually per hectare. The cost of extraction at 2 metres deep, which is approximately 80,000 cubic metres at, say, $4 per cubic metre, equates to about $320,000. Now, $320,000 for 4 hectares worth of pasture improvement would probably make this the most expensive farming, the most expensive practice of farm improvement, pasture improvement in the history of Australian agriculture or anywhere else. I'd also like to say that given the past record in different areas of the Shire, when you've had large-scale clearing and extraction, even just for house sites, the proposed remedial works, given their scope of just hay bales, etc., there's no guarantee of proper remediation, especially as Mr. Tan suggested, if there was heavy rain, and there would be significant danger to waterways of pollution of that mudstone. Finally, like the Tans, we have also farmed on mudstone country for a very long time, including this particular paddock. And in terms of vineyard and stock grazing, there is no doubt that keeping rocks in the ground is a far better thing than taking them out. And I would just hope that the councillors go along with their executives' recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ritchie. Councillors, have you got any questions for Mr. Ritchie? Sorry. No? Thanks, Mr. Ritchie. Next deputation will be Ms. Lynch online. Are you still there? Okay. Ms. Lynch, can you hear me?
I can. Can you see me? No.
No, we can't. I know you're still having difficulties, but I'm happy to keep going with just an audio, given technical difficulties.
Fine. Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. On this particular application, I speak on behalf of myself, my husband. Tony and David have talked about the Buttercup Road VCAT matter. I led the Merridgee Residents Action Group in that matter. So I thought I'd give a couple of statements that came out of that VCAT matter because it's so similar. It's almost apples for apples. So I'll quote the conclusion of the VCAT matter, which said, the proposal would have unacceptable amenity and landscape impacts that would give rise to land use conflict, but also diminish the highly valued landscape qualities of the location. So this is a 5 kilometre as the crow flies away from where the proposal, which is before you. It has the same significant landscape overlay, the same alpine approach, the same significant landscape area, and the same environmental significance overlay. Turning to the applicant's proposal, the second proposal, I see not much different to the first. There is weakness and a lack of integrity by way of self-compliance, which means there's none. The quantum of the material to be removed and available for rehabilitation is questionable. The lack of geotechnical analysis, particularly relating to Mansfield's water supply. And finally, as a small farmer in this group, I can't imagine why a paddock renovation requires 2 metres of excavation to revegetate a paddock. But I could go on, but I'll give you a couple of things from the VCAT finding that I think is important for you to know. But, there was a MRAG witness, Angela Killingsworth, who lived in Buttercup Road, who spoke of her personal experience whilst this quarry was being illegally mined. She spoke of incessant scraping, intermittent beepers, really loud, irregular thumping with no consistency, way beyond any normal agricultural sound. I think it's also important that you look at point 97, page 27 of the VCAT finding, where the VCAT members themselves said, we give significant weight to the recognised and very high quality and value ascribed to the landscape in the public and private realms based on the scheme's provision and policies. We have not been persuaded that the proposal will protect the values identified in the significant landscape overlay. I too want to draw on the local policy emphasis that it emphasises agriculture and tourism. which goes to the Shire's prosperity. There is not a single mention of the extractive industry participating in the wealth of the Shire, because one person digs it, it goes to Melbourne, and there is no money staying in the Shire. Tourism, on the other hand, is key to us, and the winery, literally 600 metres with direct line of sight to Mount Buller from the restaurant, is a very key, iconic component of Mansfield's ability to attract tourists, both summer and winter. So having said that, the neighbourhood precedent set by VCAT in 2018, I think should give you a great deal of confidence to uphold the delegates' report tonight, which incidentally I think is very good. And I hope that you will vote no to this proposal. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms Lynch. Just stay online, please. Any councillors, have you got any questions? Ms Lynch? No questions. Thanks for your deputation. Please stay online. Kelsey, okay? Yep. Okay, councillors, the officer for this is Ms Nicole Embling. Have you got any questions for Ms Embling?
Just on that, the visual aspect of it, looking through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry, is that ridge line is visible when you're looking out towards Buller? That'll be I'm not sure if you know this, but that sort of where it doglegs around, is that visible from looking out towards Buller from, say, Mansfield or the road or the winery and all of that sort of stuff?
Yeah, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor.
The permit applicant has actually provided some photos in their documentation of
that's from that one's from the road.
There is one from Stoney's Road, and there is some photos from Mount Buller Road as well. And council officers did quite an extensive drive around and have determined that you can see the proposed sites from multiple locations along the Mount Buller Road.
Thank you. That was what I was trying to inarticulately ask. Yes, okay. Thank you.
Well done. Any other questions, councillors? Well, there is a recommendation before you, Councillor Brenny.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll move that council, having caused notice of the application given under section 52 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, and having considered all matters under section 60 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, resolves to issue a notice of decision to refuse to grant permit for planning application P214/22, the use and development of land for extractive industry. Take the rest as read as of page 45 of the agenda.
44, 45,
44
and 46.
and 45 and
Yep.
46.
Yep. Good. Councillor Clark, seconding the motion.
Yes.
Councillor Brenny, do you want to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Mayor, and thanks to all the people who have come and spoken this evening, and the officer work on this as well. It's significant. Just really concerning the environmental impacts and potential for, without any flora and fauna assessments, geologic assessments, limited land management plan, and the impact on amenities. Can't see it being a benefit to the broader community.
Councillor Clark, you second the motion. Do you want to speak to it?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Does any other councillor want to speak to the motion? Or does any councillor want to speak against the motion? In that case, I'll put the motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried.
Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just thank Ms. Embling for coming in? She's actually coming in remotely from a planning conference tonight and made a special effort to join us online after presenting all day.
My wind away. But anyway, yep.
Sorry.
That's not a problem. Thanks, Ms. Embling, for coming in tonight.
believe she's still.
Thank you. I will stay for one more if that's okay.
Yeah, I see you're on 13.2.4. So yeah, which is what we're going to discuss now. Everyone's free to leave if they, or you can hang around.
You can stick around.
13.2.4 is the 57 Mansfield Planning Scheme Amendment. Responsible Officer Ms. Emily. Councillors, have you got any questions in relation to this agenda item tonight? Yes, Councillor Tony.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Mayor, Ms. Emily. Just any clarity over why it's been split into two parts, and what that might be, as I see in the recommendation.
Certainly through you, Mr. Mayor. So it is currently quite a very large planning scheme amendment that does take into account two very big factors. We have our required planning scheme review that's required every 4 years, and the implementation of our Mansfield open space strategy. Effectively, we have received some submissions in relation to the open space strategy implementation and what that looks like for a planning scheme amendment. So the proposal tonight is to split the amendment so that we can proceed with our required planning scheme review, which makes some much needed updates and corrections to our planning scheme to enable that to proceed quite quickly, as we are actually due to do it again in 2 years. So we're kind of running a bit late on that, and to enable us to enable officers to continue to work with the submitters in relation to the Mansfield Open Space Strategy before bringing that back to council.
That clarification. No further questions.
Councillors.
Well, move the
Yeah.
motion
That'd be
on
great.
the recommendation on page 51. Won't read it all out. Happy to move that.
Thanks, Councillor Toon. Councillor Bruni. Seconded, Councillor Toon, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, let's just get on with it. Yeah.
Councillor Bruni, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Any other councillor would like to speak to that motion?
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to back.
Would anyone want to speak against the motion? I'll put that motion to a vote. All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. And Councillor, sorry, Ms. Embling, enjoy your very engrossing planning conference.
Thank you. We will.
Thank you for coming in tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah. Item 13.3.1, unreasonable complaint conduct policy. Our responsible officer will be Chelsea Young, Ms. Young. Thanks for filling in for Ms. Tanya Tabone tonight. I see you've got 3 items here, so thanks for that. Councillors, have you got any questions for Ms. Young?
Yeah.
I've got something on the table then. It's page 55. There's some recommendations. Councillor, yes, Councillor Treasure.
I'd like to move the motion that council endorses the unreasonable complaint conduct policy of 2025.
And Councillor Bruni. Councillor Treasure, would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bruni.
No, thank you.
Any
Mr.
other
Mayor.
councillor?
Explanatory.
In that case, put the motion to a vote. Those in favour? Motion carried. 13.3.2 is the councillor internal resolution procedure. And again, responsible officer Chelsea, Ms. Young. Councillors, you got any questions? Right, then page 57, there's a recommendation on there. Councillor
I'll move the motion,
Treasure,
please, Mr. Mayor.
go ahead.
The council adopt the councillor internal resolution procedure as required by the Local Government Act of 2020 in compliance with the requirements of Schedule 1A of the Local Government Governance and Integrity Regulations 2020 make the procedure available on the Mansfield Shire Council website and revoke the Mansfield Shire Council Code of Conduct 2021.
Thank you, councillor Bruni. Councillor Treasurer, do you want to speak to the motion?
I think Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Bruni,
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
does anyone want to speak against the motion? Or for the motion?
I just want to make a comment just for those listening that whilst we're revoking the Mansfield Shire Councillor Code of Conduct 2021, it's because we fall under the Model Councillor Code of Conduct. So I don't want it to be viewed that we don't have a code of conduct. We have a statewide code of conduct.
Yeah, good point, councillor Clark.
Yeah.
All right, I think we will vote on the motion. All those in favour of the motion? The motion is carried. And item 13.3.3, the privacy and data protection policy. Ms. Chelsea Young. Councillors, got any questions on that one from Ms. Young? Page 59 is a recommendation, councillor Clark.
I'd like to move the council endorses the privacy and data protection policy 2025.
Thank you. Councillor Bruni. Councillor Clark, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you, Mr.
Councillor Bruni.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Any other councillor want to speak to that motion? Against it? Those in favour? Carried. Thanks, Ms. Young. Very well done. Item 13.4.1 is the quarterly finance report, 31st of March 2025. Responsible officers, there are two, Mr. Alcaraz and Mr. McCormick, who have both joined us tonight. Welcome. Good evening. Councillors, got any questions for either of those responsible officers? Yes.
Yeah,
Councillor
I have
Fernandez.
one for whoever wants to answer it, I suppose. It's just to do with attachment to the grant liability report. And it states that as at the 31st of March 2025, council has recognised the liability of 3.4 million as unspent grant funding received. What do we do prior to the 31st of March 2025 in regards to grant liability reporting?
Yeah, so in terms of what we do, how we treat grant liability, that's your question, Mr.
Yeah.
Yep, the same way at the end of each quarter.
Okay.
Through you, Smith, we had applied it for the December quarter, grant liability, and for the March quarter, we've applied it again. Previously to that, we hadn't included it in the quarterlies for that, because it was through our annual return process that we went through that thorough sort of going individual grants to actually get the correct recognition for each of them. So the December quarterly report was the first time would have had it within the quarterly reports.
Okay. Yep. And that's in accordance with the accounting standards, which you outlined there. Yeah. No, very good. What's it, just out of interest, I tried to sort of see where in the rest of the report that $3.4 million, how it was actually calculated or where it is calculated. Is there somewhere where it tells me exactly in your report where that 3.402 million
Through Mr. Mayor, I don't think we've provided the actual calculations in the report. We've got that as probably a document that's sitting behind this front interface. It's something we could take on notice as preparation for future if it was relevant.
I might be able to add something, although I'm not an accountant, so I might get it wrong.
Yeah.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, as I understand it, the liability is reflected in our current liabilities, so it would come up in the income statement. Is that correct? Or that?
Yeah,
like the wrong statement there.
Through you, Mayor, if you basically it should sit as a current liability.
Yeah.
Where the money is sitting in our financials. the calculation through to that position would be where the expenditure on that specific grant sits.
Yep.
Where we
Yep.
haven't got that specific detail presented, but actual where the liability sits, it should be sitting in the current liability account in the balance sheet.
Yeah.
Balance
Okay,
sheet.
okay, I get that. Just when you see a figure like that, it's always good to be able to reference it back to something.
Yeah.
So for people who are nowhere near as, financially switched on as you guys, we have a bit of a clue as to what that means or where it is. Yeah.
So you will find it through, Mr. Mayor, it is actually, I did get it wrong. It was the balance sheet. I spoke too soon. It is actually recognised in the commentary there in terms of the total liabilities. And it does say a reduction in the unearned grant liability by 3.4. So it is recognised in our commentary in the report. And it will be reflected in the balance sheet. So you should be able to see that it went from this value at the end of financial year down to that as the money has then come to book.
And just so in your opinions, you've said that based on the information provided by responsible officers and managers, council's overall financial performance is in line with the budget. So will you back that statement up?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
For this information with the quarterly report, it is in line with where the budget was for the 24-25 financial year.
Thank you.
I just have one question, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, councillor.
Through you to the officers here. Just looking at the financial performance indicators and the working capital forecasted dip to 94%, which is below the local government performance reporting framework. Any comments on that? Any need to be concerned or good advice?
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Yep.
Definitely our working capital being below the reporting framework is a concern. And it is an area of focus within the council to see if measures how we can build that measure back up.
Thank you. No further questions from me.
Thank you. Any other?
There's no further.
Yeah, if there's, just wondering whether there's any other questions. We on?
No.
No? Okay, go ahead, councillor Rooney.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move that council notes the quarterly finance report for the period 1st July 2024 to 31st of March 2025.
Thank you. Councillor Treasure. Seconding. Councillor Bruni, do you want to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Councillor Treasure.
No, thank you.
Any other councillors want to speak to or against the motion? The motion to a vote then, councillors, all in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. Don't go anywhere because we've got agenda item 13.4.2, which is the borrowing and debt management policy. And the responsible officer is Mr. McCormack, financial controller. Councillors, have you got any questions for Mr. McCormack? Okay. Page 70 has a recommendation. Councillor Tehan.
I'm happy to move that council endorses the borrowing and debt management policy 2025.
And second, councillor Brennan got his just in front of you, councillor Clark. You'll have to be quicker. Yeah. Okay, councillor Tehan, do you want to speak to that motion?
No, only minor updates of the previous policy, so nothing.
Yep, and councillor Brennan.
No, thank you.
Any other councillor want to speak to or against the motion? All those in favour of the motion? Motion is carried. Thank you. one more. 13.4.3 is the carry forward projects policy. And responsible officer financial control, Mr. McCormick. Any questions, councillors?
Seems quite simple.
Councillor Clark,
I like to move a motion that council endorses the carry forward projects policy 2025.
yes, councillor Treasure. Councillor Clark, you want to speak to that motion?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Treasure, any other councillor want to speak to or against the motion? In that case, put that motion to a vote. Those in favour? Motion is carried. Thank you both, Mr. Albanese and Mr. McCormick, for your attendance in person tonight. We do appreciate it. Thank you. Item 14.
I move, Mr. Mayor, that council receive and note the Mansfield Shire Council meeting resolutions action status register as at the 8th of May 2025.
Thank you. Got a seconder? Councillor Treasure. All those in favour? Motion is carried. Item 15 nil, item 16 nil, item 17 closure of meeting to members of the public. Councillor Clark.
Yeah, I move that council close the meeting to members of the public under section 66(2)A of the Local Government Act 2020 to consider confidential reports in accordance with section 66(2) of the Local Government Act 2020 for reasons set out in section 18.
Thank you. A second, Councillor Treasure. All those in favour? And we will be leaving this meeting and coming back after we've considered the confidential meeting minutes. Thank you, people watching. Thanks everyone for coming back and waiting, for us to reopen the meeting. We discussed confidential items. They are in this agenda. And so now I will close our May meeting at 18:49 hours. Thank you for watching and see you next month. Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, everyone.
I can't get out.